The churches I worked at, they're incredible, but they're also deeply flawed and human and broken. It's not all charmed and roses and easy. You don't go away to college to, lose your faith. You lost it in high school. High school changed in the last 10 years. Kids are more self-aware of themselves, their bodies, their awkwardness. They're put into categories and labeled sooner. If we don't talk about it, their phone is going to talk about it, and probably in secret and in private. I would say the battleground for teenagers used to be high school. Now it's junior high.
Hello and welcome back to another Momentum Ministry Partners podcast. My name is Eric and I'm the host for today's conversation. And I'm so delighted to have with us today Josh Griffin, the one, the only.
Thank you. I'm excited to be on this program. Appreciate it. If you're
Josh.
wondering, I know that not everybody can see. A lot of people are listening, but I just rubbed my eye and I have a little hot chicken dust on it yet. So I'm not emotional. I'm fine. I just have a spicy tear right now.
There you go. Now, because I'm curious, I'm going to take the bait. Where did you get hot chicken dust?
We have a place out here called Red Hot, and it is like blasting hot. They have a swear, like on the heat index, they actually have a swear word on the last one because it's so hot.
There you go.
No, I did not order that one.
Right.
No, thanks for inviting me on here. I've been doing youth ministry a long time, so anything to serve and care for youth workers, I'm in. Yeah. Let's go.
I love it because when it comes to youth ministry, you're maybe one of the most respected, well-known youth ministry voices today. We were just talking, you've had more than 30 years of being in the trenches experience, if you will. You're currently the junior high or middle school pastor at Mariners Church in Irvine, California. You lead the middle school ministry there. You've helped invest in families' lives there in tremendous ways. Josh, how long have you been at Mariners?
That was very kind. I was hoping you would also say the best looking in youth ministry, but you must not have got that on the note that I slipped to earlier.
Yeah,
That'd be great. I served as kind of a temporary basis for Mariners to help one of their congregations or campuses early. And then the junior high ministry thing kind of came out of nowhere. I had been running Download Youth Ministry after my 13 years at Saddleback. And I said, I have run youth ministries for a long time. I'm old. There's no way I can get back in it. And six years now of running the junior high ministry. And as I started, it was COVID and all that run, which was crazy. Mm-hmm. And the ministry was in a pretty tough place. And if I'm honest with you, I really like turnarounds. I like fixer-uppers. I like the challenge of all of that. But it's been a great time. So 6 years at junior high and a couple years before that doing other stuff at Mariners already. Crazy.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. I think when I started as a youth pastor, the average lifespan of a student ministry pastor was like 11 to 18 months was like the range.
Yeah, and it's not good.
But I remember saying to myself, like, I would love to make it 18 years in one church as a youth pastor just to like break the mold. Exactly. And I made it 16 years and changed, like 9 months or something. And then I jumped ship and came on board with Momentum. And
that's terrific though. I mean, that's the rarity. Unfortunately, I don't know exactly what the number is, but I know it's low. And I've had the privilege of, in all these years doing youth ministry, doing it in 3 churches. And so 8 at one, 13 at another, and whatever the balance now at Mariners. And so just feel like I've had a very blessed run. I mean, churches aren't perfect, and I am, of course, deeply imperfect as well. But been very fortunate to work for great churches and learned a lot from leaders, both good and bad. I think sometimes, especially when you name drop like Saddleback or Rick Warren or whatever, you kind of you think it's just incredible. And the churches I worked at, they're incredible, but they're also deeply flawed and human and broken. And Jesus is using the church and redeeming the world through the church, which I love. But it's not all charmed and roses and easy. It's been challenging, very, very challenging to be in it this long too.
Mm-hmm. So how long were you at Saddleback then? You said 13
Yeah,
years?
13 years. Yeah, so
Okay.
came on and met Doug Fields a couple of years before that at a conference, and I said, man, I would love to do that principle of how he was running youth ministry back in Michigan.
Mm.
So we took those principles back, and God just did an amazing work, and kids were following Jesus and getting baptized, and it was extraordinary. It was kind of the early days of purpose-driven youth ministry and
Mm-hmm.
first few years of youth ministry, both kind of books, must-read books by Doug Fields. And then through a couple of fortunate circumstances, we kind of became friends and then very good friends. And then I succeeded him at Saddleback when he left. I became, no pressure following Doug Fields at Saddleback.
Right.
But God has been so good, and our friendship has blossomed. Now I would say we're best friends, and we run a organization to help youth workers called
Mhm.
Download Youth Ministry as well. So, and he
Nice.
works at the church. We're still doing ministry together too. It's great.
Yeah. Now is his what's his role at Mariners?
Yeah, he's marriage and family.
Okay.
And then I have been offered other roles, but I'm staying in my lane. I know where I belong, and that is the junior high pastor. So
I love it. I love it. All right. So what drew you to middle school? Middle
it's a
school
good
is
question.
it's a unique
Yeah.
those students are unique, man.
Well, I stumbled into it, to be honest, because I've done high school or both all the way up until Mariners. And as I have kind of aged up, I don't think I've aged out. I think I could still do high school ministry, but my playbook that worked for high school or a combined ministry, kind of my philosophy and style and rhythms and patterns, teaching, all of it. High schoolers grew up because the phone changed everything for them. So instead of them exploring faith and wondering about their friends' faith and whatever, their phone is, challenging or disintegrating their
Mm.
own faith. So high school students actually became that college level of faith. It used to be God's not dead. Go to professor's going to challenge your faith. Well, now the phone is challenging your faith. So
Yeah.
you don't go away to college to, lose your faith. You lost it in high school. That's the now. And so my playbook, it just seemed to move because junior hires got older too, and access to the phone for them has been crazy. Kind of my heartbeat moved with them. So I really have always said I've been a high school pastor my whole life, but high school changed in the last 10 years
Mm.
and it moved down a notch. At least the temptations, the struggles, even the mental health stuff, the identity, the gender, all of the stuff is now squarely, I would say, the battleground for teenagers. Used to be high school,
Mm.
now it's junior high.
Yep.
So I would also say it's a little easier than high school, if I'm honest with you. Like they just love you, and they're forced to be at church. So that helps a little too, but they want to be there, and
Mm.
they want to be seen. They want to be recognized. They have a lot of gifts and talents to offer. But I would say it's the critical intersection of phone, faith, family
Mm.
today. Um, as an aside, I would say fourth and fifth grade or so ministry is really critical more than ever. I would say it's youth ministry now.
Mm.
A lot of churches still have that in kind of that kids ministry lane.
Mm.
I would say if your fourth and fifth grade ministry is leaning kids instead of leaning youth, um, you're going to lose a lot of kids. You may be
Yeah.
making a mistake. I would at least analyze it. And
Mm.
I realize I'm speaking from a California perspective too, but um, I would say fourth and fifth needs to lean youth group more than ever because those kids are getting older sooner. I'm shocked at the number of fifth graders that have a smartphone. So
So
it's
Josh,
it's coming for them.
go a little deeper on that. Take that what you were just saying because of the phone. We know studies show you can look at the research, the average age of pornography and social media and
Yep.
all the introduction to that. But take that a little bit deeper now.
Yeah.
Why is that no longer high school? Now it's middle school, and even really you're saying fourth and fifth grade.
Yeah.
And explain that further of like the emphasis that you would put on helping
Totally.
those students own their faith?
Yeah, I would say the new junior high is fourth and fifth grade. Kids are more self-aware of themselves, their bodies, their awkwardness. They're put into categories and labeled sooner rather than later. They do have temptations, exposure. By the time someone gets to junior high, they've already been exposed to porn. They've already been marketed and merchandised to. They have influencers in their life that a fifth grader never
Yes.
had an influencer before. And now they can name a dozen YouTube, probably YouTube influencers still, but very quickly the phone is coming for them too. So I just feel like in not too long ago, and maybe even present day in a lot of ministries, kids ministry is like, okay, we bought this curriculum for the first graders, and we're just going to put it for first through fifth. And it's kiddie, it's cartoon, it's basic, it's Bible, nothing wrong with that stuff. But I feel like the culture and kids have moved quickly past that, being digital natives and with this incredible amount of exposure. And so instead of playing the first grade curriculum, what if you pushed it? And this is trouble. This is tough because as a parent, I'm like, I don't want you to talk about pornography in fourth grade. But and as a parent, I want to be protective. I don't want to be too protective. I don't want to be like a helicopter parent or whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
my tension with parents is if we don't talk about it, their phone is going to talk about it, and probably in secret and in private. If we don't address some bigger questions, and I'm not saying have a full-on purity, sex, relationship series. No. I'm just
Right.
saying the studies are saying kids are getting older faster and kids are staying young faster. So even on the other end, like let's stop on fourth and fifth, right? They're getting older faster, too old, too fast, right? But on the other end, a 22-year-old is getting stuck at maybe around that point, and they don't change till they're about 30, or they're stuck in
Right.
their parents' basement, or they can't afford a house, or whatever it is. So I
Yep.
think we have a real opportunity to really lengthen youth ministry. I would say fourth and fifth grade is that key, at the very least, sixth grade. Oh my. And then I think youth ministry ending at 18 is a mistake. That there are great they're still youth, even though they're an adult age, into their early 20s and sometimes even a little longer into their 20s, because this youth ministry has changed as a culture and as a society, but the church hasn't. And so I'm kind of advocating, and maybe early for your context, but I'm advocating to reach down and talk about some more challenging stuff and be more relevant than cheesy cartoons and a one size fits every grade curriculum.
Yep.
And, at least embrace some of that, them growing up much faster than ever before.
Yeah. So for churches, as they're thinking strategically, and they're targeting, they're aiming at fourth and fifth grade students, let's say, what should they want them to know coming into middle school? And then same thing for middle school going into high school. Like what maybe at Mariners, what are some of the benchmarks that you guys are trying to hit as far as we want our students to know this, this, and this. We want them to understand maybe it's their identity in Christ, or
Yeah.
what are those mile markers?
Yeah, I would say first off, you just have to make a real investment into the fourth and fifth grade ministry, or whatever that looks like in your church, preteen or whatever. But my number two guy at Mariners, his name is Elliot, and Elliot has been my right hand. He's a junior high guy. It's awesome. They just took him from me, which hurts. I think it's a compliment. It's supposed to be leadership development, but it hurts. You lose one of your best players. But they made Elliot the fourth and fifth grade director, the pastor of fourth, fifth grade. So we are moving to legitimize fourth and fifth grade as an age group to be specifically targeted. So I would say it's going to require a new focus. Now, our fourth, fifth grade room is still in the kids building. If I could rewrite it, I would move them over to the youth room or the youth building, but it is what it is. Again, that's all big church stuff. But I think align them with the youth department versus the kids ministry it's a big signal to kids that you're treating them differently. So anyhow, those are a few precursor things that I would do. And then I would say in kids ministry, around this time of year, we're recording this in December, um, you're not allowed to talk about Santa Claus because you're going to spoil Santa Claus for kids, right? And I would suggest this might be I might be kicking some kids ministry people, but they figure out the Santa thing fine. Just don't avoid the other topics that really matter to them. I would say at least how to use your smartphone for, within like a Christian worldview, boundaries, guidelines, identity. I do think your sexuality is an important topic. I think it has to be taught really carefully, and you need to inform parents, partner with parents. Maybe you do A, B, and parents take C at home if they choose to. But I would say, especially here in California, all of the gender identity, all of that stuff is happening really early. So the church can't ignore it. The church, it doesn't go away. In fact, by the time they get to junior high, it may be a decision or a lifestyle that they're fully cemented in. And so I know it's difficult and I know it's uncomfortable. And I do think you'll upset some people that haven't had difficult conversations yet with their own kids. And I never, ever want to not support the home. The home is everything. But I think sometimes maybe we need to nudge. I mean, it's hard for me because my parents or I have been a parent for four teenagers. Now I have three adults and only one teenager left. And his next birthday, I won't even have teenagers anymore. They'll all be adult children. And so, I mean, I'm talking about this in the distant past but we had really hard, big conversations in our family about all of these issues. So I don't know. I'm just saying youth ministry is a bigger section of our population, our church attendance, than ever before. And I think both ends create a really new and interesting opportunity for those that are ready to take it.
I love that. That's super helpful because I know a lot of churches, as they wrestle with these things and they're trying to piece together, how do we transition students from these different age groups and brackets? There are those key mile markers that you want to know that you've hit them. And so to have those measurables involved in your ministry or as your target is helpful. Josh, in your time in ministry, we're kind of talking about things that have changed. Go the other way? What's stayed the same? What's consistent through the time from maybe the 30 years ago when you started?
Yeah, I would say that's a great question. 30 years ago makes me sound so old. I am just about to turn 51. So, I mean, I've
I
been
was going
doing
to
this
say he's
a long
39.
time.
He's 39.
Yeah, exactly.
Friends. He
Yeah, I started
started.
youth ministry when I was 9. I would say there's a couple things that haven't changed. One is students need to be seen. They need to be loved. They need to be cared for. I would say adults' roles and adults have gotten crazier and busier. The phone has taken their attention as well. So seeing someone, appropriate physical touch, giving a kid a high five, a welcome, a greeting, a hug as appropriate, of course, all that stuff. It's so needed. It hasn't gone away. In fact, I would even say like I care, like your eyes are saying that you care, like give them your eyes, your attention, your focus, because no adult is giving them focus. Parents are working multiple jobs, side hustles, and the phone. I'm not an anti-tech person, by the way, just for the record.
Fair.
I love technology. It just feels like it has brought some stuff that no one's talking about into our homes and our lives and our church. Anyhow,
Yes.
I would say that hasn't changed. A kid does not get someone's full attention. What has changed, as we've talked about some of them, I would also say the world has gotten really entertaining. And so we can't beat the phone. We can't beat the entertainment of the world. It's instantly accessible. It's inexpensive. So the entertaining youth ministry that was maybe prevalent when I was starting, I do think fun is super important. I think engagement is
Mm.
really big deal. I think laughter is disarming. So I want to go for fun. Um, but I also know that the end goal and what hasn't changed is the gospel of Jesus that needs to be shared with this generation.
Mm.
So I don't want to entertain them because A, we can't, I have Disneyland 19 miles from my house. And so, which is about a 2 hour drive, by the way. But
Yeah.
yeah, 19 miles,
Yeah.
2 hours. I can't compete with Disneyland, but I can compete with a timeless message of their identity, their faith, their eternal future, all of that in the message of the gospel of Jesus. So kids are still looking and searching and filling that emptiness with whatever
Mm.
they can find, and there's plenty to find these
Mhm.
days. Um, but I think community. I would argue. I got to go on a pickleball trip not too long ago. I really like pickleball. It's poorly named, but incredibly fun sport. And sport might be an overstatement. Game, I don't know, whatever. I
I
went on
love.
a pickleball trip to Mexico with some buddies of mine, and we were sitting there one night after we played. We're all sweaty and laughing, having a Coke Zero, and which is an elite athlete's hydration.
Hmm.
And I just thought to myself, how rare is it for people to have community like this, like lifelong friends, decades old friends talking about, playing a game, having fun, the boys in Mexico.
Hmm.
That's a good time.
Yeah.
But also, I'm glad that your listeners weren't there. But there were, if you were and you listened, you'd have heard some pretty amazing conversations, some very transparent moments.
Yep.
I think community, I mean, in adult men is very low. I think in adult
Hmm.
women, it's still low too. Maybe they maybe doing a little bit better than the guys
Mm.
are. But I think teenagers, the research would say this too, are the loneliest generation ever, most connected and the least truly in community.
Yep.
And so the church and pickleball, the church is what brings us. That is our circle. That is our community.
Yeah.
So I think a lot about youth ministry hasn't changed one bit. The
Mm.
core of youth ministry is the same.
Mm.
Maybe what we talk about when and how much, and there's definitely some new challenges to it, but the
Mm.
core of youth ministry, it's still alive and well.
Yep. That's so helpful because I think when as a youth pastor, you sit down and you're like, gosh, there's so many great things out there. There's DYM, there's Momentum Ministry part, there's all these things, right? There's curriculum, there's box sets, there's all these resources that are maybe at your disposal, and you're trying to gauge and measure like what's the right thing that's going to fit. As Josh, as I'm listening to you, everything you're saying is biblical. you know, like identity in Christ is huge. Understanding how God
Yep.
created and wired you. Uh, God's word is important. The gospel matters. Like community is a thing. Like let us not give up meeting together. Have people that are invested in you in all these different ways. All of that is biblical. It's practical. It's applicational. And honestly, I think there are times where, as youth pastors, we forget some of those things and we think we need the latest and greatest. We need, the new curriculum set. We need all these things in order to be an effective youth pastor or youth leader. And the reality is you need God's word. You need the Holy Spirit. You need the gospel,
You
right? So
got it.
like when I'm hearing you reflect, I'm trying to reflect back on some of what you're saying. So, um, Josh,
Yeah, I mean,
tell
if,
us
if
with,
I if I was to say it in succinctly, I would say we have the answer for what people are searching for today. We have the answer to their problems. We have they are so desperately seeking, and we got it. So what you're doing
yes,
matters, more than ever and ever before, for
yes.
sure.
Yeah, I was teaching at a local youth ministry a couple weeks ago, and I did this thing where I'm like, guys, if I had Thor's hammer, how cool would that be? If I pulled up in the Batmobile, and like the Batmobile, like we would all be gawking. I would drive that thing everywhere. I would wield Thor's hammer like nobody else could. I I would tell everybody. And yet, as Christians, to understand that like we have the power of the Holy Spirit. It's the same power that raised Christ from the dead living inside of us, and we don't activate him. We don't talk about him. We don't leverage the power that he gives us. And so I'm not like, new agey or prophetic or any of that, but I'm like, that's real. That's in scripture. The same power. Jesus himself said, go and be bold, and
Yep.
you will receive power when the Holy Spirit comes on you. That's real power. That's not fake plastic Thor
Yeah, the
hammer.
same power that raised Christ from the dead lives in you. I read that and I go, let's live like it. And this generation needs us to live
Mm-hmm.
like that too.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So as you're a mega church middle school pastor, that probably your budget is different than any other church in America, and they're hearing you now say it's not about entertainment, it's about fun, and it's about creating those environments where students can hear the gospel. How do you do that? What does that look like
Yeah.
to the average Joe youth pastor in America?
Well, what I would say to Joe or Jill or whoever, I would say this. I would say, we have less money than you think, first of all. It's a normal church. It's a big church,
Fair
but there's
enough.
a lot of hands reach into that same pot. No, I would say one of the reasons we created Download Youth Ministry was to make killer youth ministry resources available at a very inexpensive cost. And
Yep.
not just fun and games, although we have literally thousands of games and so many fun videos, and it's easier than ever. But I would say it's also more accessible and it's more inexpensive than ever too.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason that we have fun is to create a bridge between you and your audience. Sometimes it creates relevancy. If you're really lucky, the fun game ties into the message and it even helps deepen the message. But at the very least, it's a great way to introduce someone to a new crowd, to break the ice, to get to know each other better,
Mm-hmm.
and a little bit of laughter. According to the scripture, not my words, it's like a medicine. It's good for you. It makes you better, healthier, and stronger. So
Yeah.
on Download Youth Ministry, the way I program our junior high ministry is I just go to DYM and I click hot and new, and then I just get whatever I think looks good for our youth ministry. So it's been so fun creating that. It was
Yeah.
just me and my buddy Doug's kind of dream, and we put our stuff up on it, and then it exploded, and now 1,000+ youth workers have 15,000 resources. The average price is like $5. So it's pretty extraordinary what you can get for a $5 bill these days.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have like the gold membership, which is kind of basically like a ticket to be in the community. And it's kind of a cult. Just kidding. A club. That's better. It's a club. It's a club. No, it's a youth ministry cult club of
Mm-hmm.
people that are saying, we want to have a great time at youth ministry. We want kids that are disconnected to become part of the community. And we want those that are genuinely interested in seeking Jesus to follow him
Yeah.
or follow him more closely.
Mm-hmm.
And you can get anything that you need. Like some guy was like, I need a missions trip journal for a South America trip we're taking that's 8 days. And, you type in a few things into the search bar and you can find a
I love it.
mission trip journal that's about a week that was used in Brazil or whatever, and then you just adapt it, edit it, and use
Yep.
it. It's yours. You don't even
Yep.
have to give the church credit or Download Youth Ministry credit, the author. They are dead to you. That resource, that one thing I love is when I meet a youth worker, they're never going to have a book. They're not at a big influential, they're not at Life
Yeah.
Church or whatever. In fact, one of our authors, his name is Derry. He's at an Amish church in Indiana where they literally have like horse and buggy parking in addition to the cars. And he's one of the most influential youth workers in the world
Mm-hmm.
because of his resources. He makes incredible resources, games and videos, but also small group material. He's got a super senior Sunday pack to help your seniors finish well, and then you adopt them into college. And It's brilliant stuff. He's never going to write a
Hmm.
book. You don't.
Yeah.
No one knows his name, but he is helping tens
Hmm.
of thousands of churches through Download Youth Ministry. So, I
Yeah.
mean, two things. One, if you've never used DYM, go to downloadyouthministry.com. You can get a month membership, which includes store credit, discounts, downloads for a penny. So jump in.
Hmm.
Or if you maybe you already are and you're part of the club, or yeah, club. That's the word I need to use. You're in the club, but you're also like, you know what? I want to contribute something. I'm a really good writer, or I think my videos, I'm a pretty good editor, or whatever.
Hmm.
You have a small group devotion, guide for the month of February for the love month, and you wrote a journal thing, and let's put it on DYM. And
Yep.
instead of it dying on your hard drive, it gains new life. It worked for your 25 kids, right? You spend
Yeah.
all this time and you're like, okay, it's just going to die on my hard drive. Well, what if 25 churches or 2,500 churches could use that same work? I mean, in a weird way, I would say Download Youth Ministry also is unlocking some of the stewardship of the church too.
Hmm.
Like, right, I make this game for my youth ministry. I'm like, that crushed. It was so funny. It was a 6-7 game, right?
Yeah.
That was really popular over the last quarter. And so I'm like, oh man. And then, well, put it on Download Youth Ministry. And because it's a hot, trendy thing, thousands of youth workers, literally, we've sold thousands of 6-7 games. I'm so over 6-7, but anyhow, um,
Seriously.
but
Oh, seriously.
kids love it. And
Yeah.
if you're looking for something that's relevant, super inexpensive, will connect with your audience, I'm very proud of
Yeah.
Download Youth Ministry. I
Yeah.
wish I had it 30 plus years ago when I started.
Yeah.
And to have it now is almost like a cheat code. It's almost not fair to the OG youth pastors out there, honestly.
Agreed. Agreed. Well, it is funny because I think as Download Youth Ministry was kind of getting big and growing traction, I was a local church youth pastor who was spending, I'll be honest, way too many hours creating my own stupid screen games and lyrical videos and countdowns and all the things,
Yep.
techie and front forward facing, all the things. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I should write my sermon. Oh yeah, I should print off the devotional. Oh, like, because you, as a youth pastor, you want to make some of those things fun, and it can be so time consuming. So I love that, once I found Download Youth Ministries, like, just take my money. Like, here's the, buy $5, get a game for the week, use it again the following year. You're golden. Like, just build
Yep.
your library and build it into your rotation, and it makes life so much easier. And then it gives you so much time back that you can actually invest in the things that you should be investing your time and energy in, planning the spiritual side and spending time with students and all that. So
Yeah, and if you get, excited about the creative and some of that work, then at least amplify your work by putting it on Download Youth Ministry. And if you don't, you're like, I wish I had time. I got a hospital visit. I had to do a funeral. Maybe it's a great week and you had some time off or a wedding or whatever. Um, or you're going to be gone and you got to have a volunteer teach,
mm,
and he or she's never taught before. Like, run on
mm,
Download Youth Ministry, grab a game, a video, and a one-off message, a lesson that's ready to go.
yeah.
And now you can take a night off, and
Mm,
or now you have time for that hospital visit. Now you have time to go be a pastor. Like,
yeah.
anyone can make the game or the video or the
Mm,
series graphic, anyone, but
right.
not everyone can be in the ER for that kid who
Mm,
has the
mm,
appendectomy or whatever. So,
yeah.
like, show up as a pastor and let us and thousands of other youth worker creators now
Yes.
um, do this stuff.
It is funny that you mentioned Derry, because I recently just met him
Oh, it's
in
phenomenal.
and we bonded over Indiana, because I grew up in Indiana, and he
Oh,
for sure
nice.
is in Amish country, Pennsylvania, or
Yeah,
Indiana.
it's
So yeah.
for real Amish country. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he's become a dear friend over the years, but literally
I
he
grew up
has
not far from there.
hundreds,
Yeah.
yeah, hundreds and hundreds of resources. Like, he is shaping youth ministry from
Hmm.
Download Youth Ministry. And when his new resources, there's several others like that. There's a guy from Canada, Matt Baker. There's
Hmm.
a gal, a curriculum writer. Her name is Sabrina Hadro. She's phenomenal. We just several people that have like a gift, and Download Youth Ministry has become their platform too. It used to be
Yeah.
my buddy Doug and I, and
Right.
now there are so many incredible people that are doing incredible things. We happen to get to point at stuff now. We used to create it all. Now we're just like, this girl's amazing, or this guy's extraordinary,
Yeah.
or this
So
game.
fun.
Sometimes you don't even know. There's Amanda Freeman. She just came up with a game, the 6-7 verse hunter. It's really clever. Here it is. She puts a verse on the screen and then 4 books of the Bible, and you have to guess which chapter 6, verse 7 it is.
Fun.
It is so fun. It's so easy. The only problem sometimes with Download Youth Ministry is that I look at it and I go, I should have come up with that.
I know.
Like that game is so good. Why didn't I think of that? Like,
why didn't I think of that? Oh,
yeah,
my
the
word.
number of times I'll say, why didn't I think of that is unhealthy.
Dude, the Student Ministry Chronicles. I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like the Youth Ministry, oh my word. Right? Amazing.
Love it.
All right. So as you're trying to think through now the students, let's take it up a notch. Let's go the other way.
Let's go.
How do you partner with parents? How do you partner with parents for one? And then for two, how do you invest in your leaders? So let's kind of go that direction now.
I'll divide parents into 2 sections, and I'll be honest with you. I'm doing one of these sections really well, and the other, I am not the person to talk to about it. Okay, so I'll just keep it real.
Fair.
My youth ministry doesn't have everything together. So let me tell you where we do. Yeah, in talking to parents, we're doing dynamite. In communicating to them about the activities, events, the calendar, like I got announcements and print pieces and mail home. I am a information giant. Parents need something from me. I email all of my parents every week something. Like information to parents, killing it. The other half, equipping parents, empowering parents, supporting parents. I mean, I'm not great at it. I'm kind of, I have to shift because, the mindset is we disciple your kids. Thanks for dropping them off and we'll give them back to you. That's old. It's unhealthy. It's outdated. It's not realistic. It isn't, kind of that, the D6 is an organization that does a ton for the parents in the home. Deuteronomy 6 is where it comes from. Should be Deuteronomy 6-7, but whatever. The idea is, the parents are the primary disciplers. And so an area that I want to work on in the next season is not just informing parents, but equipping and preparing them. I mean, I think our church does good stuff for their marriage. I think we are family friendly. We're budget friendly, all those things. But I think the information to parents is the much easier half of the equation. And we have talked about creating a parent resource library or a parent training website where they can grab, my kid is, whatever, looked at pornography for the first time or is cutting or whatever, and watch a quick training video or some encouragement on it. We've talked about connecting newish parents or parents of teenagers with veteran parents and empty nesters. And we have a really vibrant senior citizen ministry. Well, some of those people that are just moving into that would probably be amazing to pair with someone who has a 12-year-old or whatever.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of room for growth. If I'm honest with you, it just keeps falling down my priority list.
Sure.
And so, but I won't miss communicating to parents. I just think there's another level and we're not there. Volunteers was the second half of your equation, right? Or question.
Yeah.
And I would say volunteers are essential. If you're doing youth ministry alone, you're doing youth ministry wrong. And so make sure that you are, recruiting, sustaining, encouraging, and training your team. I used to think I was a pastor to students. In fact, that was my title on our church's website. But I quickly found out that I'm a pastor to volunteers. And so even today, it's a Friday afternoon, I've happened to have texted and interacted with 4 or 5 of my volunteers today and no students. Because I'm equipping and empowering and training my volunteers. My volunteers are the ones who actually work with students. There's a pivot. It doesn't happen to everybody. If you're in a smaller church, I grew up in a youth ministry of 12. So I'm thrilled. If you're a youth pastor of 12, I'm like, you're awesome, because I came from that youth group. But around 30 or 50, it's got to get bigger than you. It is bigger than you. You can't even remember the names of every kid who comes in your ministry, because 50 attending regularly is probably 100 kids, give or take, that come in and out.
Right.
And we all have a capacity. So if it hasn't happened to you yet, it will. And if it has happened to you, it's a hard awakening, where you go from being the youth pastor or a pastor to students to really you're an equipper of the saints who are going to do the ministry. Yeah. And so my youth group are my volunteers, and my volunteers, they have a youth group too. So we pour into them, we care for them, we do. If you go to trainmyvolunteers.com, it's a website that Doug and I put together. It complements Download Youth Ministry, but it's a huge training platform once a year to kind of rally tens of thousands of volunteers together in a virtual training. It's really cool. We started youthministryuniversity.com, which has like 75,000 students now. And it's just volunteers getting a little bite-sized training and encouraging them, how to learn names, how to, lead a disruptive kid at a small group time, how to care for parents, how to show up in tragedy, like how do I deal with, fill in the blank. We got a ton of those. So it's little 10-minute trainings, because if your volunteers aren't trained, they're going to quit. If they're not in community, they're going to quit. If they're not put in an essential role, they're going to quit. You could go to kids ministry and have an essential role. You could go to be an usher or a parking lot attendant or whatever. And you got to give people something they can sink their teeth into. People actually want that. Sometimes we walk it back a little bit because we're afraid. And youth leaders, if they volunteer in your youth ministry, chances are they want to sink their teeth into something. And so, as appropriate, elevate that until they feel challenged and mission critical. They're not going to leave. So anyhow, still a work in progress. Volunteers is like an enigma at times, where you're like, I think we're doing great. And other times you're like, I thought we were doing great. And something, it could turn quick, and, dealing with people is challenging and difficult. And we ask for a 1-year commitment from our volunteers. Hopefully they'll re-up. Hopefully they'll help us find other people in the church. Sometimes people look at Mariners, a very, very large church, and they just assume everybody's serving. And the youth ministry has plenty of money and plenty of volunteers. And truth is, we have neither. We have the smallest budget in the church, and we're looking for godly people to influence the next generation. But cast a vision for what this ministry needs. I found that a volunteer recruiting another volunteer is insanely powerful, because it's their testimony. So rather than an announcement in the bulletin or a video, what if you just had Chip or Simon introduce themselves to some people and say, hey, I've been doing this for 4 years in our high school ministry. You got to come check it out, because what I learned is I was in it to help them, help the kids, and the kids actually are the ones that are helping me. Like, I've grown more. I've been challenged more. I've been in my Bible more because of these teenagers. And so volunteers it never ends. So you never get to a point where you've arrived and you have a perfect volunteer team and you have no more needs. So it's a persistent battle that you will always, battle is a little too strong of a word, a persistent cause that you need to always be championing. But it can be done well, and we're sure doing our best.
Dude, I love that. I love it, because you're really speaking into the heartbeat of every youth pastor, trying to crack that nut and figure that out. And so, I just appreciate your vulnerability, even of saying, like, this is the side that we do well. This is the side we're learning. Yeah. Because every youth pastor in America goes, right.
Yeah.
Same.
Well, if you were to say, like, let's do a missions trip podcast, I'd be like, ooh, I've taken them and I like them. and I know how they work, and I've had some pretty great, but I'm not your guy. I'm not, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like I
Right.
believe in them, but to me, when I put together my 5 year plan for now we're past that, but when I put my 5 year plan in, I was like, I want this. The last one was
Hmm.
I want to take kids on mission trips, and
Hmm.
yeah, maybe isn't the right path or play, but that's where
Yeah.
it landed in my priority list, and I know it's not my strength and not something I want to talk about today.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, that's awesome. Josh, I think the other side of this is you kind of put it all together in terms of, developing a healthy student ministry in your context, middle school. You've now got, communication to parents. You're trying to equip your volunteers, trying to figure out how to engage students and get them in the door to be able to hear the gospel. How do you, like last step, then put that all together to help the discipleship pathway, especially in middle school in your context? What does that look like? A student comes, they learn the gospel, maybe mom and dad are encouraging them to be there, participate, and then they're hungry, they want to learn. Let's say they pray to receive Christ on the mission trip, and now they're like, I like my small group leader, but how do I take next steps? What do you guys do to encourage that growth, and create an environment where that discipleship can happen?
That's a great question. I mean, at the end of the day, I think in junior high specifically, I want them to make it to the other side with experiencing community, because community is what's going to help them stick and
Yep.
stay. It's one of the things that makes us deeply unique. I want them to have an outlet for their questions and
Mm.
their spiritual curiosity. They're they're going to ask AI now,
Right.
and I want them to ask a trusted adult in the faith community as opposed to Chat GPT or whatever. Although those are powerful tools as well and they have their place. I'm not against them again by any means. But I think community and hopefully at the very least a understanding of the gospel. I would hope that they have trusted in Jesus and they follow him and they're all in.
Hmm.
But I think more than ever, um, there's at least an openness that I hope that every kid has and a desire for more. Now, that
Hmm.
doesn't always happen. I wish that, man, when a kid left the eighth grade in my ministry, that it was like every kid follows this nice little linear cookie cutter. This is who I'm spitting out at the end, you know? And that just isn't the case. Youth ministry is incredibly subjective, it is formative. I like to think of it as, you're chiseling off some pieces or you're molding clay. Um, I just, in junior high, I want the clay to to be begin to take shape,
Hmm.
um, and not be hardened.
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes, and you can see it in some young kids in particular, and it bothers me so much when I see a kid whose walls are so high, the world has been so rough to them, or adults, or circumstances, or whatever, that their heart or their clay, whatever, is already hardened.
Hmm.
Um, my goal is to soften every teenager while we shape them. And I'm not a very good sculptor. I don't paint. I'm not an artist. I hope all those things are true in my analogy that I'm going for. But I I think the misstep we make is we sometimes maybe push a
Hmm.
little too hard, and maybe the
Hmm.
I think we want that output so badly. We want that nice little Jesus bow on the story at the right time,
Hmm.
and we don't get control of that.
Yeah.
Um, we get to be a part of the story. And
Hmm.
for the part I'm responsible for, I want them to know that youth group is safe. It's a place to belong. It's centered around Jesus. And as life throws more at them, and as they experience the good of God's blessing, the bad of this world, the ugliness of sin,
Hmm.
that they will know and not return to. I think that's the old way. They would leave their faith during college and then they would return when they had kids. I don't think it's a return to that I'm going for. Um, maybe more modern would be like they
Yeah.
deconstruct, right? And then
Hmm.
they come back when their kids are old. Um, I would like their heart to always be soft on that journey. Um, I do think, a little bit of an aside, youth ministry does bear a responsibility to prepare kids for the adult services as well. And so my youth group service is crazy and games and bonkers. And then when you go to high school in our church, you go to the adult service.
Hmm.
And so I do think there is some tactically a little bit of responsibility to not go too overboard with the junior high thing, that
Hmm.
the whiplash of the worship service is too much. And
Sure.
so I do think junior high carries a special, high school too, carries a burden to prepare students for the main service, whatever that looks like in your
Yeah.
church, the
Yeah.
adult service.
Mm.
Um, to do that in our youth ministry, I try to bring in several familiar things. One, we start series on the same, day and date and week. We align baptisms, and we have an invitation culture in our church called I Believe. And
Mm.
when someone stands up in a service to say they believe and follow Jesus, when our adult services do that, we do that too. Our adult service ends with prayer. It's a very oddly formal thing that we do, and I love it. I used to be like, what are we doing? Are we like a liturgical church? But they do this benediction at the end, and may the Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you and give you peace. I love it. So I love it so much at the adult level, I brought it into junior high,
Mm.
so that at some point in the future, when a kid's, not, hopefully not hardened heart and
Hmm.
life comes to church or back to church or whatever, they'll be like, oh, I remember at the end of every junior high service, we held our hands out and Pastor Josh would pray over me. And here they are now, looking at their own little kids
Mm.
or whatever they're, looking back on their life, and they hold out their hands and say, my heart is yours, Jesus. The clay is still soft. And so those are some goals. I don't know that I've written
Mm.
out like four happy hops and they have to know this Bible
Right.
story and this doctrine. To
Right.
me, it's more of a feeling. I want
Mm.
them to love and feel the community of the church, the power of Jesus, and that their heart would be
Mm.
soft. Yeah.
Dude, I think it's so good what you're saying because in everyday real life practical application in the it's the blocking and tackling of youth ministry.
Yep.
Like when you really get into the trenches of it, the thing that matters the most is what you're talking about. Do the students know that that there are safe people in their lives, and do they have community? Do they understand their identity in Christ? And do they have a growing relationship with him? In that context, that's going to happen most when they go to the adult that they know that cares for them the most to invest in them and help them grow. It's hilarious because most students will ask an adult youth leader, the trusted, safe adult, they'll ask the weird random questions. Was Jesus really born on December 25th? Or then, once and usually the adult leaders go like, oh crap, I don't know. And then they go to AI and they look it up. They go to them
Yeah.
and they look it up. But then later, when you give the trusted answer, later then they get like, hey, how far is too far? I'm actually with my girlfriend now. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, and then even if the youth leader looks that up on the internet to like find a biblical answer or whatever, that's okay because you're the trusted person, and that's what you're saying speaks back into the community of how we're designed, we're wired for relationship, and that youth leader, that youth pastor, in that moment, you're pointing that student to Jesus.
Yep.
And so teach them how to pray, teach them how to find those answers to those things. Not just you give them the answers, but do that with them. And so I love what you're saying of like when you create those communities and those environments, when you do those the prayer and the purposeful things that are built into your student ministry, now you're modeling for those teenagers what that looks like and how to depend on the Lord for all of it. So Josh, thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Any closing thoughts or final words you want to challenge or encourage our listeners with?
No, I love it. I mean, first of all, just thanks for having me on the program. I love it. Love what you're doing as well through Momentum. And I just want to help youth workers. So if there's anything that I can do, I've been doing this a long time. I'm not good on the phone. I do not enjoy calls or voice stuff, but I love texting and we'll answer Instagram DMs. Shoot us a note at Download Youth Ministry. Anything we can do to help.
Mm-hmm.
I think Download Youth Ministry is changing longevity in youth ministry. And so I'm honored to be a part of it and that to be part of my legacy because I want to help youth workers win and win for decades in their career. So thanks for your faithfulness too, Eric.
Yeah. Well, Download Youth Ministry, the Facebook group, the community group is probably one of two reasons why I still have Facebook. That and Marketplace. So
yep, that's it. Those are about the only two good things left. So
yeah, it's honestly like, I could do without those. I can't do without those two, and I could do without just about everything else on Facebook. So
yep, no, I love it.
Awesome. Well, join the Download Youth Ministry community, join the club, be a part of all of the resources that they have. Josh, it's just been an honor and a privilege to get to learn from you, to pick your brain. I'm excited we're taking some Momentum Pro youth pastors out to Mariners here soon.
With me. I'm excited
about that
learn.
Too. Yeah, we're going to get to experience all of it. So it'll be awesome. Yeah.
You'll get to see my most impressive self very soon.
All right.
I think Eric's words, best looking guy in youth ministry. Not mine.
I'll have to go back and listen. I don't know about that.
Listen to the tape. I'm pretty sure that's what you said.
Well, I love it. I love it. Awesome. We were talking about Doug, right? Yeah.
You dog.
Amazing. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. That'll do it for today's episode. We're excited about all that we can continue to learn with and through each other. So thanks to Josh for being a part of this conversation. We hope that this has been of benefit to you and to all of your staff, your student ministry, your leaders, your parents. So if you found this episode helpful, send that on to somebody that you might know who would benefit from this as well. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Momentum Ministry Partners Podcast. If you found this episode helpful, would you subscribe, rate, and leave us a review? That helps more people discover this podcast. We'd also love for you to share this episode with someone in your network who could benefit from the conversation. Because we want to be your go-to and most trusted resource, we'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover in a future episode, send us an email to info@buildmomentum.org. Or you can send us a DM on any of our social media platforms. And if you want to learn more about Momentum Youth Conference, Urban Centers, Grace College Akron, Momentum Marketplace, or Momentum Pro, head over to buildmomentum.org. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.